Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the magnificent, wildly intricate machinery of our own bodies. We're going to skip the super basic biology today and look straight at the actual engineering. We're talking about how the human body organizes itself at the organ level to not just keep you alive, but to actively function and thrive.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First up, form meets function. Then, defining the organ level. 3. Mapping the body cavities. 4. Systems working together. And finally, the ultimate goal, homeostasis. We're going to break the entire human body down into perfectly logical pieces.
All right, Section 1. Form meets function, breaking the divide. To really understand what an organ does, we first have to look at how it's built.
It starts with a simple, yet pretty profound question. What actually makes an organ an organ? I mean, right now, inside your body, structured collections of cells are performing highly specific, relentlessly active tasks. We're talking millions of chemical reactions and physical pressure changes happening at this exact second. Your heart is firing electrical potentials to pump blood. Your lungs are swapping microscopic gas molecules. Your stomach is literally secreting highly acidic fluids to break down your last meal. It's a non-stop engine. But how do we actually study these structures to figure out what they're up to?
Well, it fundamentally comes down to anatomy versus physiology. Anatomy is the physical structure and location of the parts. Physiology, that's the dynamic chemistry and physics that actually support life. So the crucial point is, you simply cannot separate the two. You can't understand an organ's physiological function without understanding its anatomical form. Think about the unique arrangement of the bones in your hand. That anatomical form exists solely to unlock the physiological function of grasping and manipulating tools, right? The physical architecture is what creates the opportunity for the chemical and mechanical action to happen in the first place.
Moving on to Section 2. Defining the organ level, the biological hierarchy. Let's look at exactly where organs sit in the grand scheme of things.
The body builds its functionality through a micro to macro biological hierarchy. It's like a giant puzzle. Step 1 begins down at the cellular level, that's cytology. In Step 2, these cells group together to form tissues, histology. When different tissues combine, boom, we hit Step 3, gross anatomy, which is where individual organs sit. And finally, Step 4 is where organs integrate into massive systemic networks. What is absolutely vital to understand here is that at every single step up this ladder, physiological capabilities multiply. A whole new level of complex function emerges that just didn't exist at the smaller levels.
And this brilliantly illustrates that an organ isn't just some random lump of tissue. It's a structured collection of different tissues working together to perform a specific, essential physiological function. Basically, it's a highly specialized biological factory. Take your heart, for example. It requires electrical signals from nervous tissue just to trigger contractions in the cardiac muscle tissue. Meanwhile, connective tissue forms the precise valves that ensure the ultimate goal, unidirectional blood flow. Without every one of those specific tissues interacting perfectly, the entire organ fails.
Which brings us to Section 3, mapping the body cavities, the real estate. Let's talk about where these organ factories actually live. The human body organizes its internal organs, or viscera, into fluid-filled spaces we call body cavities. These are separated into two major compartments, the dorsal, or posterior cavity, and the ventral, or anterior cavity. Now, physiologically, these spaces aren't just empty storage units. They are absolutely crucial to house and protect our delicate internal machinery. They provide essential shock absorption and regulate internal pressures so your organs can actually do their jobs. Let's start with the back of the body. The dorsal cavity is located along the posterior, and its primary job is nervous system protection. It's subdivided into the cranial cavity, which acts as this thick, bony armor for your brain, and the spinal cavity, where your vertebrae protect the spinal cord. Now, you might be wondering, why does the nervous system need this rigid, unyielding armor instead of dynamic space? Well, because nervous tissue physiology relies on incredibly precise, undisturbed electrical pathways. It literally cannot tolerate spatial compression or physical disruption. Hence, the solid bone casing. Flip to the front and we find the ventral cavity. This one is much larger and fundamentally different. While the dorsal cavity is rigidly protected by bone, the ventral cavity gives organs the necessary room to dynamically expand, contract, and move around. Your lungs, heart, stomach, intestines, they all need to drastically change size during their functional cycles. Consider this. Your stomach can physiologically expand to hold roughly 4 liters of food and liquid. 4 liters. If it didn't have this dedicated, flexible, empty space in the ventral cavity to expand into, digestion would just compress and severely damage your surrounding organs.
The ventral cavity is further subdivided for highly specific operations. Up top, enclosed by the rib cage, is the thoracic cavity, housing the heart and lungs. Beneath that is a massive sheet of muscle called the diaphragm. Now, the diaphragm forms the floor of the thoracic cavity, but it's way more than just a physical divider. It's a vital, physiological pump that creates the precise pressure gradients needed to pull air into your lungs. Below that active pump sits the abdominopelvic cavity, which houses your digestive organs in the abdominal area and your bladder and reproductive organs down in the pelvic cavity.
Because the organs in the ventral cavity are constantly moving, pumping, and expanding, they desperately need built-in protection against friction. Enter serous membranes. These are thin, double-layered, fluid-filled sacs. They have a parietal layer that lines the cavity wall and a visceral layer that hugs the organ itself. And the fluid between them? It is incredibly clever. It creates surface tension. It's exactly like two wet plates of glass. They slide past each other effortlessly, but they are incredibly hard to pull apart. This functionally keeps our lungs clinging to our expanding ribcage as we breathe, while making sure organs like the heart glide smoothly against their neighbors without taking frictional damage.
All right, Section 4. Systems working together, the physiological network. Let's pivot from location to dynamic action.
11. That is the exact number of macroscopic organ systems in the human body. And the absolute most important takeaway here is that no single organ and no single system ever works entirely alone. Physiology is essentially an endless series of complex handoffs. The heart needs the lungs to oxygenate the blood it pumps. The digestive system relies on the cardiovascular system to distribute the raw nutrients it breaks down. Everything is this integrated, beautifully networked dependency.
Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is that if we categorize these 11 systems by their shared goals, the incredible complexity becomes totally logical. It's like the architectural philosophy of the body. We have control centers, the nervous system using rapid electrical impulses, and the endocrine system using slower chemical hormones. We have transport, the cardiovascular, respiratory, and lymphatic systems delivering oxygen and filtering fluids. We have processing, the digestive and urinary systems breaking down fuel and ditching waste. We have structure and movement, your bones, muscles, and skin. And finally, reproduction. Every system has a highly specialized role, relentlessly collaborating toward one massive shared objective.
Which brings us to Section 5. The ultimate goal, homeostasis. Why is all this structural and systemic effort actually necessary? Well, homeostasis is the ultimate physiological goal of your entire body. It's a steady state of internal balance. Whether that's keeping your internal temperature near 98.6 degrees, maintaining a steady pulse, or regulating the exact pH levels of your bloodstream. To understand the sheer magnitude of this effort, think about this. Roughly 60 to 75% of the calories you burn every single day are dedicated strictly to your basal metabolic rate. That is pure energy spent just keeping the engine idling perfectly. Homeostasis isn't some passive state. It's an active, relentless, energy-intensive battle against entropy to keep your internal environment perfectly stable, despite the absolute chaos of the outside world.
Let's see how this all builds up to one fundamental biological law. The structure of an organ invariably dictates its physiological capabilities. Every single curve of a bone, every valve in a heart, every fluid-filled cavity, and every serous membrane is anatomically designed for a specific physiological purpose. The physical form builds the required framework so the chemistry and physics of life can actually happen. And that purpose, from the microscopic cell to the massive organ system, is strictly to maintain homeostasis. I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Right now, as you sit here listening, what silent, ongoing physiological symphony is happening inside your cavities to keep you alive? Millions of cells, grouped into tissues, built into functional organs, and organized into 11 beautifully networked systems, are working in absolutely perfect harmony. They're fighting against the universe to maintain your balance right at this very second. It's a real game changer when you think about it, an absolute marvel of biological engineering. So keep exploring, keep wondering, and appreciate the magnificent physiological machinery that is you.